excited?
Yeah, a little.
A little, he says.
I'm just making sure everything's working.
Are we live streaming this?
Yeah, but there's nobody watching.
Well, yeah, I expect that meets expectations. I think, what was I worried about with someone watching this? So people do this in the podcast world where they just live stream them recording the podcast?
Yes. A lot of people, when
normal.
you talk, even when you talk about podcasts, they're like, talk about watching them. For me, I'm usually just doing the audio, but
100%. I mean, I've watched them because when I go to find it on Spotify, they have the video, so I guess I have participated in this.
Right.
Oddly enough.
So
I didn't want it. It just was there.
I'm pretty sure I can delete anything after if it goes horribly wrong.
I think I enjoy it more when it's Jordan Peterson or someone that I like. I like watching them more.
Yeah, me too. I like people I like better too.
No. I'm trying to think, why is it that I don't want to look at other people? It has to be more than liking. I have to have some type of affection. I don't know.
Okay. Everything looks good. I feel like we're recording things. I've got a couple of redundancies, so we should be fine.
Oh, I was wondering what I was worried about with the live stream. I was like, I will be yawning for this. That's what it was. Oh.
Me too. I think I got like 3 hours of sleep last night.
Yeah.
We'll call it nerves. I don't know.
Yeah. Chilly
Still
nerves.
don't have music.
Oh.
I'll try to hound my brother for that.
It's like one of my favorite things about the book club is our music.
It's okay. We'll just have to cold start.
Yeah. Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. From the Clock Tower, this is the C.S. Lewis Book Club. I'm Dan.
And I'm Alex. Welcome to our book club. We're on a walking tour through Middle Earth. But as with every good journey, we're going there and also back again. And hopefully with more wisdom and maybe a sword or two.
A sword. Okay. In this episode, we'll be talking about our experience in the second half of The Hobbit, chapters 10 through 19. We're not reviewing the book, but we might spoil things. So if you don't want that, pause here, go read, and come on back when you're ready.
Great.
So, Alex, do we have any housekeeping?
Yeah, I think it's... I don't know if we talked about this in like our intro to the walking tour episode or last episode. This is our first video episode. So
I'm not ready for this.
I don't think we have to be. My goal is to try to forget that I'm being videoed, because I think it's a lot of people's big problem, but self-consciousness is the language of my pride, and that's what gets in the way of anything productive that I could be doing. So I'll try to kind of just keep it out of mind. But the people who know how to do this stuff, it's really impressive when you take a stab at it yourself. It's nerve-wracking. So I'll try to just get out of my head. One thing I did want to talk about, this is what I was teasing before I went on that self-conscious ramble, is is that J.R.R. Tolkien did not like people thinking he was writing allegory. And I think a lot of that, C.S. Lewis talks about that too a little bit. Like, there's a difference between allegory and a story that's applicable to your life. Like, all mythology is something that can be used for your profit and learning. It's a story that has meaning for the journey of your own life.
And we talked about it when we read Pilgrim's Regress.
Which is an allegory, intentionally.
Intentional allegory.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it.
Yeah.
So why did they hate it so much? I feel like they're very instructive.
Well, yeah, it's the instructive part is great. They don't like, I think they didn't like how on the nose it is. Where it's like, and this is Mr. Virtue. This is your conscience with you on the path. It's like there's certain things that you can learn from a character called Mr. Wisdom, But I think sometimes, what they liked was telling a story that you could learn from without having to be so self-referential, maybe.
Yeah.
It's like, so you have Slickestein Sauga, that name's on my mind. Somebody emailed me or emailed us about using that name recently, so I've been thinking about him.
They didn't like how I pronounced it? Is that...
No, you're...
Okay, I'm just kidding.
Neither of us are pronouncing it right.
Yep.
It was a confusion with how we were saying it, though.
Okay.
But then you have like Farsight the Eagle in The Last Battle. And I think Farsight represents something similar, at least part of the aspect of that character. But it's not so in your face. And through this character, you get to see from afar, it's like, oh, he's kind of helping see the bigger picture and the meaning of what's going on in the conflict of The Last Battle. And so that's what I think Tolkien had a problem with. He didn't want to say, Aragorn is Jesus, right? He wanted to say, look, there are Christ-like attributes to a good king. So here's a good king. You can learn from this character, but he exists as a character himself. He doesn't always exist just through the lens of some symbolic interpretation of this ready-made idea.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think just giving a little bit of a nod to that, how to say it. I think just recognizing Tolkien was against allegory, but that doesn't mean that there's not application for these characters, right? We have a Return of the King type of thing going on in The Hobbit with why is his name spacing? Why am I spacing his name right now?
Bard?
No, the dwarf. Son of Thrain. With Thorin. It's like I remembered his dad's name before him. Okay. We have like a Return of the King sort of situation with Thorin even. And it's like Thorin's not nearly as much of a Christ-like figure as Aragorn is. But it's kind of like this preparation to see what this process is. That process...
Which, for those of us who are less familiar with Lord of the Rings, Aragorn is Bard, correct? Or no?
No, Bard's these are totally different characters.
Well,
yeah. Aragorn's he's a ranger from the north. Bard's just a character in this book, and so there's not cross applicability. They're all their own people. Bard is his own person in this, and he doesn't come up in different stories in the same way that Aragorn's alive when he's alive. He's not a recurring character. So I think just giving that nod, we're going to be applying lessons from The Hobbit to us and how this works, and it might sound almost allegorical, but they were, even though C.S. Lewis and Tolkien were critical of allegory generally, not generally, they're critical of allegory specifically, like what a specific allegory is, but they're not critical. I wouldn't say they're critical, or that doesn't mean that they're not allegorical. Does that make sense?
It does.
And I hope that's fair to say. We're kind of treading on a little more delicate terrain here, because I think there's a lot more people well versed in Tolkien lore than the C.S. Lewis books, and we're not experts in Middle Earth or Tolkien land so much, and so we're gonna say things that are wrong, and maybe I'm getting a little too self-conscious already. Anyway,
well, no, I think for me, coming from what we've read so far in C.S. Lewis, I think I mentioned this on the last episode, I've felt I haven't felt confident going into this book, because at least I felt like my person connected with C.S. Lewis on a deep level, and so whatever it was that I was reading, I already felt like I knew where C.S. Lewis was going, and I felt confident I was going to have an experience with it. And so with this book, I didn't even have it the first time I read through it. And then I actually called Alex yesterday and was like, all right, I did just have a little bit of a moment.
I want to talk about that. That's so I did my housekeeping, but I do want to talk about your, like, we had a couple of these experiences when we were in C.S. Lewis books, like especially Until We Had Faces, right?
Yeah.
Going through it the first time, it's difficult to even see how it's something you could talk about.
Yeah.
And then you had one of the moments where you called me and you're like, I get it.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
tell me about this thing. I almost wanted to cut you off when you were talking to me on the phone because I was like, this is good. Let's do it on mic.
Once we talk about it once, it loses some of the magic sometimes.
Right.
Well, I don't want to talk about it specifically now, but what I want to say is just referring to what you were saying, that like I can't speak to this book to J.R.R. Tolkien PhD or to anyone who's deeply versed in J.R.R. Tolkien. I'm not going to be helpful to you. I can speak to this. I had an experience with this book, and so that's what I'm excited to share. So that's it.
Good.
And we're hoping that as other book club members, like, we want you to have an experience with it and share it with us so we can talk about it.
Yeah, and if you're new to our podcast, that's kind of the vibe here.
Shtick.
Yeah, we are we're novices and we're just experiencing. We're trying to get the effect that I think Lewis and Tolkien wanted us to get. Is like almost absent-mindedly grow, learn through osmosis, sort of.
Well, I feel like that is just like when it talks about Bilbo going to the dragon, like going towards the dragon. It talks about that he didn't know that they could sleep with one eye open, and they didn't know all these things about it. And I was like, does that make you more courageous? Like, you're naive, but courageous at the same time. So we're naively, courageously going through the book.
If you missed it, we're Bilbo.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a quick break and come back with the summary.
Awesome.
Okay, so on the video, since we're just live, I guess they get to see.
You're still here.
what our boring break part, our time is, which is
seems presumptuous to say they.
It's fine. That's right. Our wives.
The interwebs.
If we're lucky, our wives, right?
My mom would totally sign it. All right, summary and themes.
Yeah, would you mind reading the summary? I feel I'm a little what's it? Scattered right now.
I'm on it. Bilbo and his dwarf companions escaped the realm of the wood elves by hiding in barrels for a long and dreary journey down the river, eventually arriving at Lake Town and then to the Lonely Mountain. Bilbo, aided by his ring, retrieves a cup from the treasure hoard under the sleeping dragon Smaug. The dragon awakes and, assuming the men of Lake Town were behind the theft, destroys Lake Town. Smaug is slain by Bard the bowman. The celebration of this triumph is short-lived, as Thorin refuses to share the newly recovered treasure of Erebor and Dale, and tensions arise between the dwarves, the men of Lake Town, and the Mirkwood elves. The goblins attack, uniting the three groups in a desperate battle for their lives. The allied armies are victorious with the help of Beorn and the Eagles. Bilbo makes the return journey back to his hole, a changed hobbit.
Oh, very good. This is the first time me seeing the changes you made to that, and that was...
Better?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
All right. You're really good at that normally, so...
Well, I'm telling you, I've just been a little scattered with this one, and I think it's been just we took quite a big break between the first half and the second half, and so I've been stewing on it too long.
My fault. I accept responsibility for this. Going to themes, my theme, and this speaks to what really connected with me this second time through, was the power in our values and our hierarchy, how we order our values. And you see this with Bilbo as you have all these competing factions with what they desire most and what's bringing them into this situation, into the battle and into the adventure. And because Bilbo has that right mix of wisdom and courage, he's able to see through to solutions, and you don't get a feeling from him like there's this ego behind it. It's just like, well, I really would prefer just to like have some nice food and be in my hobbit hole, and you know what, I don't need all this treasure. Like there's just this like this unassuming, humble wisdom about him that really gives him his power that Gandalf and I think the Elven King sees in him.
Mm-hmm.
And that really just hit me, that like if we can align our values with the highest and best things, that is where our strength and power comes from. So that hit home for me.
So you talked about the mixture, right? Admixture. Mixture works. You talked about the mixture of the virtues. would that be that the courage, you said that it's just the right amount? Is the other portion of that, is it the humility that you think is what, or is it, because we talked last episode about tookishness and bagginsishness. Is there value to bagginsishness?
I would say when you first were going to ask the question, I was like, don't make me think deeper about it. Like that was as deep as it got. But then when you said that, my thought was, to me, you can't be prideful and also have wisdom at the same time. So when I'm talking about the combination of the virtues of courage and wisdom, you are humble if you're wise, because you actually understand the universe more than a prideful person ever could.
Okay,
so you can't look up when you are trying to look down at everything. What's the Lewis quote? Anyways,
yeah. So it's not so much a give and take as much more building on each other. So it's like an alloy rather than an amalgam.
Yeah, probably. Does it take more courage to be humble or to be prideful? I'm guessing humble.
Right. No, that's I'm a coward because of how prideful I am. Right. So that's what it's so like difficult. When you know that somebody's going to possibly be judging you, maybe even in an unfair way, like the desire to curate the way that other people perceive you is so strong that it's exactly a fear.
Yeah.
And so it, like, humility takes so much courage, just definitionally, I think.
Yeah, I like that. All right, what's your theme?
I have the dragon sickness.
I like that.
And as a theme, it's almost a little too obvious, right? So much of learning what the dragon sickness is, and Lewis talks about the dragon sickness a lot too. You have a huge part of one of his best books,
Eustace,
all about the dragon sickness and becoming the contagion of greed, and then the many facets of greed. So greed, it's not just wanting all the gold, but what wanting all the gold does to your mind and how it makes you see other people. So you see Thorin gets very overcome by the dragon sickness. You have the master of Lake Town who shows some of the aspects of dragon sickness, and you have Bilbo encountering the dragon sickness and falling victim to some of it.
Mm-hmm.
And his big triumph, he's got a couple big triumphs in this, but one of them, which is a repentance kind of process, comes through going against the dragon sickness, which is using these counter virtues to, the greed and the suspicion and the arrogance and all of the things that Smog puts on display so well. And so dragon sickness is being like almost too big of a thing, because it's something that can be applied to any of these stories.
Values, so
I guess that's true. That's true. We're
I outbroadened you.
We're kind of taking the easy way out here on the themes.
Pick a more specific one.
So my more specific theme is luck, and that term luck is used throughout this book, and that's a lot of people's criticism of Tolkien in general, but especially this book is, it just seems like everything works out because of luck, and it takes you to the very last conversation in the book for luck to be defined more for us, or at least for what has been identified as luck was something else. And that's why this book is very religious. It's a Christian book, and Tolkien said that. And if you don't see it, it might be because the way that you interpret luck in your life. But if you see that luck, especially in this book, follows people around, especially if they're making good choices. Bilbo's even identified as somebody who's especially lucky as a person. It's because he's making virtuous choices. And so I think culturally we might even use, ironically, a term called karma more for luck. But there's a merit to it. And to see luck as being evidence of a divine assistance, I think is I think it's informative. I think it's accurate, and I think maybe I need to have a little bit more faith in this divine luck. So
I like everything you said almost as much as I hate the Apple TV show Lucky or Luck.
Right, exactly.
It's terrible.
Right. Yeah, so the common conception of luck, it's like, that's, yeah.
So much to say, but with good things. Good
yeah,
things.
yeah, we'll stay on a positive note so we won't get too critical of other people's creativity.
No, that's it. Okay. Did we always just jump in here, or did we take a pause? We probably just jumped in.
Well, I think
we're going long on the themes and housekeeping.
Yeah, that's right. So we're going to try not to follow the chapters specifically or hold ourselves to the chronological process of.
Don't you tell me how to live my life.
I'm telling you, I'm not going to tell you how to live it. Right? Say you could go last chapter from the beginning if you'd like.
I'm not going to get that crazy.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's see. Where should we start?
Well, this belongs in housekeeping as well. We kind of rushed past the end of the chapters.
I can tell
last
that hurt
episode.
your feelings a little bit. You brought it up a couple times.
I think there's value talking about the dwarves being imprisoned with the elves, with the woodland elves, because I think that's applicable allegorically. It's applicable to kind of our modern socio-political life, even the way that we see each other's memberships and clubs and affiliations and such. And sometimes because of this, maybe these are the first inklings of the dragon sickness. But there's a lot of distrust between dwarves and elves, right? They're imprisoned because the dwarves won't say what their mission is, and probably rightly so.
Yeah,
there's a history.
They went into his kingdom. What were they? Were they charging the bonfires in the forest and whatever? And
they were hungry and thirsty, and they saw these elves, and then they can't. The elves can't be blamed for being, I guess, startled. By the dwarves, and so they're different people that have different purposes, and to come at that type of mingling with apprehension and guard up, I can't even say you shouldn't do that. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Because there is no answer to this, and I think that's intentional. Of if the dwarf king had told him about the treasure and what they were going to do, would the elf king have wanted some of the treasure? I mean, he did care about the gems and whatever that he ended up receiving at the end, and it wasn't nothing to them.
Well, he was identified as somebody who had this affinity for a specific type of treasure, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think the way that things work out well through the book, and this happened in the first half too, has a lot to do with the way that people approach certain challenges. Almost like the luck that is surrounding all of these experiences helped them go by the only path through Mirkwood, and there's a lot of seemingly bad luck that turns into good luck when you see it from the other side. And so that distrust of each other, not that distrusting is a virtue itself, but prudence is, and I don't think that they could have gotten to the place they eventually did if they were just naively trusting of each other.
Yes. Yeah. I'm thinking about, Jordan Peterson talks about how naivete isn't a virtue, right? But then also once you have experience, and especially if you have a negative experience, and you become wiser, it also isn't wise to then not trust anyone and trying to combine those two things.
Right.
Yeah.
It's more an admixture of rather than just, oh, here's a virtue, just, single-mindedly, monolithically seek out that, and then you don't have to make any wise decisions anymore because you already have the virtue, right? Mm. That's a very Lewisian thing, right? So the sacrificing all other virtues to your precious pet virtue is a way that a lot of people are fooled by screw tape or something,
something about the what is it? The haunted look of someone who
right
has his mother's love or something like that.
The haunted look of the people who, for whom somebody never does anything for themselves but always does it for them, right? Yeah. If that makes sense. Read Screwtape Letters.
How often do we get to do that? Just go read.
Yeah.
Let's see. One thought I had was when Bilbo's in the Elven Kingdom, and one was that I liked that he spent quite a few days just nosing about, just going around and kind of discovering what was there and eating their food, and that eventually he finds the solution to how he's going to get the dwarves out by going through that process. And you also have his thoughts where he's, he doesn't appreciate this responsibility. He always kind of has this idea in his head, like, yeah, I wish Gandalf was here, but kind of had given up that he was going to show up after the spiders and everything else that had happened. And so it's that our reluctance to accept responsibility, but just having the reluctance isn't a bad thing. I think it's okay to feel reluctance. And even I think some of the greatest leaders that we've ever had are reluctant to assume the leadership position. But then they do it for the right reason. And just the courage and the get out of your chair and go do something. I just feel like you're going to find solutions along the path, not sitting by the side of the path.
Yeah, he's not happily going about and nosing about trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah, no.
He's like, he doesn't like it. It says that he's like miserable during it, and he's trying to figure out how much he can get away with the ring, the invisibility. And yeah, there's a couple parts through these chapters where he really just doesn't know what to do, and his doubt seems like totally justified, and he still goes. He still keeps working in the direction that he knows he needs to do. Even he goes about not knowing beforehand what he should do, but he still directionally knows what he should be working for, right? Even barreling up the dwarves and realizing he doesn't have a way to put himself in a barrel.
Yeah.
And the narrator even saying, you probably saw this before, before he did, and are chuckling to yourself. Yeah, I think there's a lot of instruction. You can learn a lot about faithful behavior from watching how Bilbo goes through uncertainty.
Yeah. I think that was, I can't like peg some year or time in my life when this started to change, but I do feel like I spent too many years kind of waiting to be called on the mission, or not just waiting, worrying that I didn't have some specific mandate of where I was supposed to be going, like a divine mandate, like, heavenly. So you hear some people talking, it's like God wanted me to be a doctor, and right. So like put them on this path. And I, for the most part, haven't felt that. And at some point I gave up on looking for that. And it was more just directionally, it's become like Christ. And then everything else,
you'll get lucky.
I'll get lucky. No,
Yeah.
That's exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And then like the growth happens and opportunities happen and whatever. But yeah, stop worrying about if you're supposed to get a call or something specific, you'll get it if you're trying,
Yeah. So even that phrasing, you'll get it. It's like, I remember when I was single and people giving me advice about when I'll find the person I'll marry.
It's the worst.
And it's and when you know, you'll know. And that I think is only good advice after you've already achieved it.
Yeah.
When you're in the process, it's like the worst advice. It's not comforting at all. It'd almost be better to say, nobody really knows.
This isn't helpful to anybody, but literally the morning before we got married, my wife and I were in the car crying and saying, are we really supposed to go through with this? So Alex, I think a week after we got married, and even just in the months following, Alex, the wife, many important Alexes in my life.
For people who are meeting us for the first time.
We would always say we are never giving dating advice to other people because it other than just like you'll figure it out because it's just so different. And no, not everyone's gonna feel the same. And and we doubt it up to the last minute. And,
yeah. I always feel like that. I feel like that right now. Like, is this what other people feel like when they're recording a podcast? Because it feels strange to me, and they don't look like it feels strange to them.
Yeah.
And so this idea that we can, that what's going on inside and how we're expressing ourselves, there are a lot of tells, but how we express ourselves usually is a mask. And if we really just believe other people's confident masks and say that what we're feeling means that we can't do what they're doing, I think that will inhibit us more than encourage us. And I think just getting comfortable with that, doing something for the first time, being a novice, being a freshman, and going that first day of school
back to the bottom of the mountain.
Right, exactly. And so many parts of you always feel like you're at the bottom. I don't know. Maybe that's too much of a absolute. But that feeling like you're a beginner happens to me all the time, and I'm in my 40s. So hey, if there's any kids out there listening to this, it doesn't get any better. That's just kind of I just kind of felt. I'm just kidding.
If we're tilting too negative,
like puddle glum.
Yeah.
Bilbo does a lot of puddle glum type behavior in these chapters. Did you catch that?
Yeah, a little bit. This one is going to speak to, well, do we want to save the most crucial moment alone to the end?
Maybe we could
save it.
Let's save you mean like the quoted text? Yeah, let's save that for after the break. But we can start there because that's an important part for the second half, right?
Second half of what?
Oh, sorry, of what we're talking about just right now.
I thought we weren't following any order.
I'm sorry.
Someone's got an order.
See? Yeah, no, that's good.
How about this one? It does not do to keep a live dragon out of your calculations.
Yeah.
I like that one. And later went on to be, is that like a common phrase? Because the way he wrote the book, it sounds like. So he says it, and then Bilbo went on to say it more often, and it actually became like a figure of speech.
Yeah, just like what was the other one? Is don't taunt dragons or something.
It's I wrote this one down. Never laugh at live dragons.
Right. Yeah. I do like that. There's a lot of fun figures of speech. It reminded me of The Horse and His Boy.
Yeah.
And kind of just like the fun aphorisms.
Yeah.
That hobbits are fond of.
Yeah, didn't you say J.R.R. Tolkien maybe was on the spectrum or?
No, I don't know. Oh, I mean, it's
delete. Sorry.
It's fun to do the what is it, the armchair psychologist sort of thing, and look at past people. It's a good way to say, okay, when we see a genius and we say, well, I have an excuse for never being a genius because I'm not on the spectrum here.
Yeah.
Right.
I was gonna say, for a guy on the spectrum, he's pretty funny.
No, he's definitely not.
Maybe
the thing is
he's insulting, but I don't mean it insulting.
No, he's not on the spectrum. He's just a genius. So, and he just, the thing is, when people use that on the spectrum type thing, is because in order to be an expert at the level that he was about language, even generally, but specific types of language, and you have to have so much dedication to a craft. And at least in our modern world, none of us have the attention span anymore. I mean, TV has really ruined us, and social media even more. Watch a kids directed cartoon these days, and it's like every second it's a new scene, and so it's really scrambling our brains. I think from that perspective, everybody who grew up in a situation where they were allowed to pay attention to something for a extended period of time is comparatively on the spectrum. But I would say that as if being ADHD is not on the spectrum. I don't know.
This 100% softens everything I just said. I like that. I was also going to say, sorry, this is why the live video, everyone's going to realize there was some editing going on. This is what really surprised me about how many people showed up to do our book club, because I really thought the ask of read the whole book
Oh yeah.
and come listen to our podcast was going to be, I was surprised anybody showed up. So it really was
Bucking the trends of our modern world.
Bucking the trends, and then also I just think that there is a hunger for it. I think we've all lived out on the wasteland of short attention spans and how the shallowness that you feel to never really go deep anywhere. And so I think it takes work, but I think there's also like a good human desire for it.
Yeah, it's also really encouraging for how clumsily we go about it too.
Yeah.
So nobody has to feel like they're out of place.
we make you one of us.
One of us, that's right.
Yeah, I like that. Let's see. Any more from we're cutting this into sections. I am before the dragon dies and after it. So any more from before the dragon dies?
So I have a couple notes. Maybe I'll go through these just because I thought that. Well, I don't know. We'll see. Here we go. Here goes nothing. I thought of this personal anecdote for. Maybe this comes later. I'll do it later. So. Yeah. Edit.
I've got 2 or 3 I can throw at you.
Ooh, you got a doozy in the chamber.
Well, speaking of funny comments, I also loved that he says they hadn't really figured out how to kill the dragon, which Bilbo had always thought was a particular weak part of the plan. I was like, they've never had a plan. It was just like, we're gonna go kill the dragon.
Okay, so I will talk about it because that's kind of a good lead into what I was going to talk about. But I'm all worried about order, and I just need to forget about that. So there is this sense that, and this is where Tolkien is such a genius about the way he sets up a story, because he's aware of kind of he's so dedicated to telling a fairy tale, but there are some things about fairy tale that make it seem fairy tale-ish and not totally applicable, not like a real story. And he somehow makes them fit together by making it more real for me anyway. So one of the things, going about, what did they think they were going to just go there, kill a dragon, and have a whole mountain of treasure to split among 14 people, And that's even poked fun at. Like, they went about this with an idea. The idea was these conquerors returning to their homeland, and this fanciful, silly, juvenile narrative of how it would play out. And none of it plays out that way at all.
Yeah.
And without belaboring it, I think just noticing that part of it is very real to the way that our journeys, our personal growth and development play out. So the thing that I thought of that was funny to me is when I was a kid, like younger than 10, so I was homeschooled through elementary school, and then
we can tell. I was homeschooled too. So. We can tell. But my older siblings were going to public school, and the younger ones were still being homeschooled. And for whatever familial strife and I was about to say I could tell, but that sounded a little too much shade on your siblings, and you don't know which ones.
Yeah, anyways, that's right. Going. I have a lot of siblings. So do you. You have more than me. My younger brother and I were like, when our 2 older brothers, when they come back from school, we're gonna settle the score, right, of what all of our conflict, and we're gonna fight them. And we're gonna use our time at home to practice fighting moves, nice. So that when they get back from school, we'll finally be able to, confront them and have this triumphant. Right. You can see in our young kid minds, we're creating this like conquering story for ourselves. And the way that we prepped for it was we went in my parents' room, they had a king-size bed, and we jumped around in circles practicing what we thought were good ninja kicks, landing on our bums because that's the best ninja kick. You stay with your foot extended sort of thing.
Right
And
from the Karate Kid.
so they were very bed jumping dependent type moves. And then when my our older brothers came back home, my brother and I confronted them, and there was kind of this awkward showdown in the entryway. And then my brother says to me, "How do we get them on the bed?" Right in our mind. Then when we had to play out this narrative that we'd almost rehearsed in our minds so frequently, it was just silliness. And that's what I kind of what the vibe that I got from this is. They're going to go conquer. They're going to each get 1/14th share of this treasure. Bilbo even says, "There's no way you could have prepped my mind for the amount of Thror's treasure. How could I have I was gonna go burgle it one piece at a time, and so it was just so applicable to see it from that perspective.
He hadn't even thought about how he was getting it back to his house,
right? And so, Smaug takes advantage of that naivete, right? He's like, and you won't be able to get it back, and they'll probably kill you, even trying to
son of man. How dare you?
Right. Trying to, right, the very, very dragonish temptations. And trying to fan the flames of suspicion. And it starts to work. And at this point, that's when Tolkien, or the narrator, brings it up and calls it the dragon's poison. And that poison is what causes the dragon sickness. And it's in that disparity, I think, the disparity between what we think tomorrow will bring and what it actually brings. And that level of control, it's that pride again. Whenever, and this is something I have to work on with my kids all the time. My daughter especially, when something happens that's different than what her expectation was, even if it's a good thing, I think she's very imaginative. She's really good at expecting something that she wants. And then when it doesn't happen the right way, let's say the plan or of the activity goes out of sequence a little bit, she gets nervous about it, like something wrong is happening. And so my wife and I are always like, it's okay. It's okay that things don't happen the way we planned it. And oftentimes they happen better. But because of her expectation, I can see that this is something we're going to have to really work on with her, to not try to control the future. Especially when especially when our juvenile imaginative ability is such that it's in retrospect laughable. And I think that to have that perspective, we're all children, we're all silly dwarves, that what we have prepared for our futures might be laughable in retrospect. Try not to control it. Because that control, if I have to force everything that good that could happen to me, if I have to define the luck before I get lucky, right, then I could be not only blind, but shut myself off to things beyond my imagination, which is kind of what a Christian disciple is promised, things beyond our ability to comprehend. And so every time we're trying to tell other people,
if you're willing to give up what you can comprehend.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And what we can comprehend becomes so precious to us. Mm-hmm. My understanding feels like a hoard of gold sometimes, where it's like, I even have these notes. Oh, I got to follow these notes because this is what I understood when I was reading the book. But in the conversation, sometimes things come out that we never even expected or thought of before. And it's the conversation that allows for that type of nuance or newness to come about.
I like that a lot.
So, should we take a break before we go into, or do we need to spend more time talking about Smaug?
The last thing I want to say before Smaug, I love the audible Smaug.
You listened to the Andy Serkis version, right?
I think I did. Okay. Was this line, "Not the most foolish in Lake Town doubted if the prophecies had gone terribly wrong." I thought it was really cool that when they first see the fire and they assume the king is under the mountain like this, and they're singing the songs, and this to me had really cool application, not an allegory, but cool application to our waiting on the second coming. Because at first they're excited, and this day that some of the town had faithfully waited for had come, and then turns out actually it was a dragon. And although that seems, and so now even this is saying like even the smart people in the town now doubted, now thought the prophecies had gone wrong, but they're waiting, those that were faithful and waiting and that were able to perceive that, then were able to prepare faster, so there was less desolation and damage when Smaug does show up. So I thought it was so cool that like they think it's what they thought. It wasn't at all what they thought, but it still did prepare them the way they needed to, and then eventually this prophecy does come true, but not like anyone else had thought. Just like we're talking about, nothing they could have predicted, imagined or predicted.
Yeah, it's interesting. Doubting the prophecy allowed it to actually come true. That is kind of another minor theme, is how does an agentive, or how do agents play within the playing out of a prophecy? And the way that these prophecies are, they're not so specific, or they're a little ambiguous. What does it mean for the lake to glow? You know, it's like, oh, it's because your town's going to be destroyed, right? Instead of from just the amount of wealth or the bounty. And it really is cool to see how prophecies don't take away your ability to engage in a meaningful way with it.
That's cool. Yeah, I like that thought.
Yeah, let's take a break. Let's take our break. Yeah.
We didn't do our timer like usual.
I know, but I've got a timer here. We're at 45 minutes since we finished breathing.
You haven't breathed in 45
minutes. For the watchers.
Dumb, I know.
We do a little Wim Hof breathing before we do this.
We do. Well, I think, if people actually start tuning in, you can join us for the Wim Hof.
Maybe
that would be kind of fun.
Yeah, maybe. Except I'll see that you have such a better lung capacity than I do.
Says the guy who got 3 minutes and what the other day?
Well, yeah, that was
what? I've never gotten 3 minutes 30 seconds.
That was after like 45 minutes of intensive breathing. So weird stuff. Your mind goes some crazy places, good places and scary places. No, but yeah. Anyway, maybe we will. What's the value of this live feed if they don't get to see all of the ridiculousness?
Too much of the ridiculousness.
How do you feel like we're doing? Do you have
good? No, I think this I'm enjoying the conversation. So
me too.
That's the only box I know how to check.
Mm-hmm.
Should we go back? I'm ready.
Okay.
I think. Okay. Welcome back.
Smaug is dead.
Smaug is dead.
Book over. I keep saying Smaug. When I was a kid,
it's disappointing to me.
When I was a kid,
this isn't Jiffy Lube. This is Hobbit.
It's the same sort of thing we were talking about in that Hideous Strength. I was saying Tower of Babel. And
did you get an email on that?
No, we just talked about it on the episode.
Biblical scholars.
Well, we have the term Babel, and it comes from that, and it's just like, as a kid, maybe it's when I read it the first time or something, and the way I pronounced it, it just kind of, it like pernicious, is that a word?
It is.
Yeah. It sticks through. It kind of like, it's like learning the wrong thing too soon, so you never readdress it. And that's kind of how so I'm always saying Smaug, because as a kid, when like my mom was reading the book to me, I knew what the word smog was. Yeah. And that's just kind of what it sounded like. So
this is a terrible attribute about myself, but I couldn't have told you if it was Babel or Babel. And I know I use them interchangeably, and I probably do 50-50 because I figure at least I'm right at the time when I pronounce this. I don't take the time to go figure it out. I'm just like, I got enough. Yeah. If I'm right 50% of the time, it's probably a pretty good ratio. I know.
Yeah, it's the index funds that usually you can.
I know people that don't like that about my personality, but there it is.
The hedging.
The hedging, yes. My thought to start out here is Bard. What a guy.
Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah, he's just one of those characters. I'm like, I want to be like this guy.
How was he introduced to us?
he was kind of, people made fun of him. He was the
we're not
town idiot, but he was so valiant and great and everything. They kept him around.
It wasn't that it was that he was.
He believed in the prophecies. That's what made him crazy, right?
There's a word. There's a term
Superstitious.
that it was used for him, not superstitious. That he was like a Puddleglum type character.
Oh yeah.
He was like overly serious.
Overly serious.
I can't remember what the term, but it was. He's not referred to by name initially. He's referred to as like the serious, but not serious. It's like pessimistic, but that's not the word either.
It's not the raven, but what's the other bird? The thrush.
The thrush.
The thrush says something like, he's the guy to trust, but I think they use that word to
Yeah.
describe him again.
Oh man, it's gonna bug me that I can't remember what the way that he's introduced to us, and it isn't until later that he's given the name Bard when he's already engaged with trying to take down Smaug.
Yeah, I think I just love it when the people who aren't initially perceived as like the natural leader for maybe qualities of they're not funny or they're too this or that, end up kind of rising to the top when things matter the most. I really love that story.
Well, like when they needed that leader, there was a certain group that naturally coalesced around him, and I think that's I wonder how he felt. This is me holding out hope that maybe I'm like Bard. Is maybe my lack of friends is just because there hasn't been any yet. But as soon as things got, because it was like the dragon's coming or I'm a fool is one thing that he says, and he wasn't a fool, right? And so the people who knew he wasn't a fool, they immediately saw him as a leader, and it's like they already knew that he was the leader. It wasn't like, oh, he's like blossoming, he's coming out of his shell. It was what was seen as pessimism and over seriousness before was maybe in lighter times. When things got serious, that's exactly
when the gold is plentiful and the weather's nice.
Right.
You'll take the mayor. What do they call him?
Yeah, the master of the town. Yeah, it's like Puddleglum. Puddleglum, who above ground is a wet blanket,
but below ground he held him through. Yeah, I like that. And my last thing, I thought it was cool when they kind of have the moment where the master, it says like, this is why he was able, you kind of points out he did have a way with words and he was persuasive and he was able to turn the ire of the town on the dwarves who brought this calamity upon them. And that was kind of the moment where my expectation was Bard was going to fight for himself to be the leader. And he doesn't even engage. He actually just says, when the time comes, I probably will go off and be the king over there, and those that want to follow me can. He's not fighting. He's not playing the same game. And then it says right after, he goes and cares for the sick and afflicted. Yeah. And I was, you're having this debate about this power grappling situation. He's like, I'm going to go take care of people.
Because the master of the town is a politician through and through. Yeah. Right. And even though Bard has like this political advantage, don't they chant?
Yeah, they're chanting
for
Bard
him to be the king. Yeah, Bard the king, and he still doesn't take advantage of it. So that's real humility to be able to have, and that's a deeper theme that we'll see even more when we go through the Lord of the Rings, is when power's presented to you.
You didn't expect us to spend this much time on Bard, did you?
Yeah, I didn't actually. I don't even think I wrote his name down on this, but he is. Yeah, and that happened. It happens in the story pretty quick. I mean, we're not introduced to him until very late. Yep. Most of the Bard, like in the book, is him contending with Thorin. Right.
But this is something Lewis was good at too. Is these side characters? I'm thinking of Mother Beaver, but what was?
That's what
Mr. and Mrs. Beaver. I'm thinking Mrs. Beaver, but these side characters, they don't play a huge role in the story, but I love their unique contributions and example of a certain type of virtue that you can take from along the way. I think I love it. I love it when a story has that kind of depth where these little side characters can really be instructive.
Right. It's not just the protagonist. In fact, in a lot of ways, the best examples of virtue are almost sprinkled throughout.
Yeah.
Which is cool, because there's another one coming up
Does it have to do with school ninjas?
That's
your note right here.
That was my note
about it.
That was my note for the other. That's my little note for the jumping around on the bed and being a dingus.
I feel like I'm talking too much, but I will jump to Bilbo comes up with the plan. Thorin's defending his treasure, and even though Bard presents a very reasonable ask of, can we have a 12th of the treasure, whatever he asked for, to help with the town that was just destroyed, and also apparently a lot of that treasure wasn't actually the dwarves originally, but the dragon had brought it and collected it. And Bilbo, and I think even some of the other dwarves, expected Thorin to see reason, but he has the dragon sickness.
Yeah, he even doubles down. He says that justification, because Bard says it's our own as well. We're only coming to claim our own as well. And he says that's your worst argument and in the worst place. Yeah. And it's like, what? So the dragon sickness turns you into a politician, right? That's what the master of Lake Town, that's his problem. He's a politician. That's the evidence of his dragon sickness. And when Thorin gets it, not only is he not listening to reason, but he's taking other people's reason and trying to reframe it as unreason. He's like trying to dismiss or diminish exactly Bard's best argument. Yeah, what's Thorin's claim? Well, they're reclaiming. That's what all Bard's saying too, is we have just as much a claim to at least a portion of this as you do. And he says that's your worst argument. That undermines himself. But if you just close your ears and close your eyes and plug your ears, then and say la la la, you can pretend that everybody else's arguments are bad arguments. And that's not an argument. It's not an argument to pretend you don't understand somebody else's argument.
Yeah. And we see the worst in Thorin. I mean, right here, you could tell if instead of 500 dwarves of what's his name? Dwayne? Dane. I like
Dane.
that. Dane.
It's Dain, right?
But if instead of 500 they had 2,000, they'd have run him over. Like
right.
that was Thorin was ready to go all the way.
Yeah.
And then obviously how he treats Bilbo at the end.
Yeah.
Near the end. At the end. We like the at the end.
That's right. I think we should play our quoted text because it will lead into some of the wrap up type arguments, but I do feel like this is because we haven't talked a lot about Bilbo, and he is the protagonist. This story is about him, especially if I have anything to learn about this, it's watching how Bilbo changes. So we're going to play the quoted text. It's from chapter 12. Sorry.
I like having the camera. I have like another, it's what do they call it? The fourth wall or something. I can like, hey. Makes it more fun.
Let's see, is this it? Yes, this is it. Okay. This is when he's in the tunnel going into the dragon's lair. Oh, this might not be it. Hold on. Hold on. I'm gonna see, and I'm not sure if the people on the video can hear it. In fact, they probably can't. So I might have to do something here. This might just be for
later on
for the audio version. Yeah, this is it.
Do you not like the Andy Serkis version?
I prefer Rob Ingalls.
Is that who we're listening to here?
Yes.
Thanks, Rob Ingalls.
And I don't know why. It might be more nostalgia than anything. I think you were going to do Rob Ingalls, I think, for the last episode, but I preferred his Gandalf voice. Is that who we listened to on the first episode? Yeah, I think
of Andy Serkis.
I think that was your...
I was disappointed by his Gandalf.
Yeah, let's see if this is it. Hold on.
Sorry.
Oh, whoops. I stopped it early. Okay, there we go. I'm going to read it just because, so we can get it here. Going on from there was the bravest thing he ever did. The tremendous things that happened afterward were as nothing compared to it. He fought the real battle in the tunnel alone before he ever saw the vast danger that lay in wait. At any rate, after a short halt, go on he did. It almost gives me chills to think about him not even knowing the danger, that it was more dangerous than he even imagined. But it was still that unknown. Lewis has I think it might be The Problem of Pain. He talks about the difference of two types of fears. If in the other room there's a tiger, you're going to feel a certain amount of fear. And it's not an amount, it's a type of fear, a danger that you can comprehend. But if I were to tell you there's a ghost in the other room, it's a totally different kind of fear. It's the fear of the unknown and the incomprehensible, which is different than the unknown. And it could even be a good thing. You could even be afraid of a good thing as well, which is actually why. So there's the awe-inspiring, and we use the word awful, and how awful has in our present use of the language is just negative. And I think it's because the unknown is so scary to us that even the good that's unknown is something that we just have a hard time with. That is why this was the hardest thing he ever did, because it was the unknown that totally he had to live through. It's the unknown of going off to college. It's the unknown of getting married, of sitting in your car and crying with your to-be wife, right? Nothing's set for you, at least in any way that you can engage with. And I think that's an important... that Tolkien even identified that experience as being worse than anything that followed. I think it's just one of the ways that a book like this is so much more real than a nonfiction type book.
Yeah. I think of times where I will speculate or wonder, am I the guy who would jump in front of the bus and push the person out of the way, or do the heroic thing? And not that that's, I can't really speculate on how natural or normal that is, but I would just say probably more valuable where this is instructive is I am being confronted now with the moments that I need to be courageous about. And it might be moving a piano.
Bringing it back.
But yeah, if live courageously now in the moment where you don't know, you do have the unknown. We all, whether we're recognizing it or not, whether we're aware of it or not, we are in the unknown right now.
Yes.
And so keep being courageous. And sometimes you're going to be more aware of that unknown and more aware of everything you don't know and more exposed to your weaknesses, and good. And that's your time, and you don't know when this Bilbo moment's going to happen. So you just have to be courageous all the way up to it and then all the way down.
Right. And it's going to be worse and better than you thought.
Yeah. You mentioned this at the beginning with your themes, but around luck, how when Gandalf's talking to Bilbo at the end, and he is emphasizing Bilbo's unique role and his goodness and his power and who he is and how that's played a role in this. And then at the same time, he says, "You're just a little person in this huge, in all of these events." And I love Bilbo's line back, which is, "Oh, good." Oh, good. I just get to be a small part of this. I don't have to be. He never wanted to be the main character, or at least because his values were aligned correctly. He was always okay being, not being the main character.
Right.
Which made him a great main character when he needed to be.
Yeah, it's not just him transforming into a Took. It's him still being a Baggins and seeing the good in both of those things and realizing that after his return, it was a return to I think it wasn't just as good of a return. I think there's even some reluctance or disappointment in having to go home again, but there's also the comfort of it. And I think being able to, I don't know if negotiate's the right way to say it, but like understand there's the adventure, the call to adventure, and then the point of it is to actually enjoy and appreciate the day-to-day, the boring, the mundane, the Baggins-ish type of life. And where my mind goes is a lot of stuff that we'll cover in the future. But I do want to talk about Bilbo, his real temptation and repentance kind of moment. How he really engages with the dragon sickness. And it has to do with finding the Arkenstone. So what were your thoughts, or what was your experience with how he went about it? Like, what did you feel about Bilbo finding the Arkenstone and the description of like almost closing his eyes as he put it in his pocket and the things that he was saying to himself to justify what he was doing? Did you have any insight into...
Remind me, what was he saying to himself as he put it in his pocket? I don't...
He would say that, he was promised a 14th share, and Thorin even said he could choose which one was his, and so maybe he would take this. He says to himself that I think I would have this over any other, just by itself rather than a 14th share.
Easier to carry it home.
Yeah, easier to. There's
smart
a lot
move,
of
smart move.
Right. There's a lot of utility in all of his earnings being in this precious little stone.
Yeah.
And the way that he's talked about going through it, I don't think the narrator wants us to think that he was justified. He even says to himself, "I'm a real burglar now." And before, that was almost kind of this facetious or tongue-in-cheek type designation for him, that he was a burglar. And I do believe that there's a lot of linguistic meaning behind that term, even what a hobbit is and the way that word is formed. I'm reminded of Lewis in the beginning of Paralandra talking about the word haunted, and that there's so much meaning in that first syllable of that even a child would understand what the word haunted meant.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of that, to not discount even the name Bilbo Baggins and a lot of the way that those words kind of feel like they mean. Mr. Bultitude, right? Yeah. You kind of know what it means. There's so much meaning behind just the phonetics of these words.
So yeah. What I love, you talked about the repentance piece of it. I know we just talked about his most courageous moment was alone and before the unknown. But one of the parts that, for me in that position, I think I would have had the most fear to confront is when he goes to the camp of the men and the elves, and he presents the Arkenstone and his plan of what he's going to do. And they offer that he can stay with them because they know, okay, if you're doing this, Thorin's, you're on the outs.
Especially the way he's been lately. You know?
And he says, no, they're my friends, and stays loyal to them and goes back. And then in front of Thorin, where Thorin is with arm's reach, not like hiding behind Gandalf or anything, where Thorin can actually pick him up and threaten to throw him on the rocks, he tells him that this was my plan and this is what I did.
Yeah.
And real repentance looks, in my mind, like that kind of courage, because it might make you look like a traitor. It might make you look like a lot of things, people perceiving whatever it is. And Bilbo was able to do the right thing and do it courageously with notwithstanding the danger that he was putting himself in.
Yeah. It brought a lot of rich young ruler imagery to my mind. So when
talk about that.
Yeah, the rich young ruler, when it comes to Jesus and says, you know, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
And Jesus says, sell all you have and follow me. And he goes away sorrowing. And we don't know the end of that story. My hopeful assumption is that he goes away sorrowing and sells it, and sorrowingly goes through the process of obedience, and then is relieved of the burden of that wealth as he goes through the process of obedience. That obedience, especially in the initial phase, isn't going to feel good. It's going to feel like the lion's claw cutting through the dragon's skin, and for him to go away sorry. And I think that's usually interpreted like he didn't obey. And it's like, well, my obedience usually is coupled with walking away with, you know, Charlie Brown style, with my head down. And hopefully, I mean, that's just what obedience feels like a lot of times. And it's not until after that I feel how much of a burden my precious little things were. You know, it reminds me of when we're at, this is another thing that's kind of fun it's become fun with my kids, but whenever we're like at a theme park or Disneyland, you could say, and my kids will see a kid crying, I'll say, it's become common enough that we have this thing, look and see if the kid who's crying has a toy in their hand. And so far it's been 100% in the theme park scenario, because a lot of the placating behavior of parents with difficult kids that have learned how to be tyrants through their tears is give them a toy and that will solve the problem. And maybe it did the first time, but then it escalates. It's almost like this addictive behavior where now you're going to need 2 toys in order to get the same placation. So my kids even think it's funny, and it's been really instructive to them. Is the toy going to make you happy? Because when we watch other kids that are sad, they've got toys and it's not making them happy. And I think that's kind of in adulthood, we have our own little precious treasures, and maybe they're not as easily marketed to us as toys, but I've got one right here, you know, which is this phone that connects me to all the things that I think are important in the world. And even leaving it almost feels like it's similar to forgetting my homework at home, you know, and where it's like I feel naked, like I've left an important part of me behind, and it's like, oh, that's the weird attachment to this precious little treasure. And when our kids have that feel to the things, their treasures that we've given them, and how frequently we supply them with it, is almost it's
terrifying.
Yeah, it's terrifying. But another thing is with the toys is helping my kids try to understand the function of a toy. And if a toy just makes them fight each other, it's like, oh, it looks like the function of this toy is to make you enemies. I better get rid of that toy. And that's kind of this challenge for them to make a toy function as a toy instead of as a hoard of treasure to fight their friends over. And you see that happening with Thorin and his should-be allies. And it's interesting that this really bad thing is a solution to their problem.
Yeah.
They're about to kill each other. And that's something I was thinking too, is humans are not good, and I don't mean humans as in this particular group of these 3 different species. I mean, agents, children of God, people who, us.
Yeah.
We're not good. Our brains are not good at giving scale, perspective to conflict. Every little conflict becomes a 10, right? Your mundane, non-eventful day, your one little squabble with your wife might put you at a 10 of anxiety and enmity, and in a way that almost feels like a battle or like a war, right? You see this all the time online where people are like arguing over the stupidest things. One of my favorite rejoinders to stupid arguments online is first time on the internet. You know, where it's like, hey, this is a place where argument is kind of status quo, so chill, like get used to conflict and contention. And even saying that phrase, get used to contention, brings the an obvious perspective on what it means to be Christ-like.
Similar to your toy analogy, if the internet makes you fight and argue,
that's good.
Do we still need the toy?
That's exactly right. I better be only using the internet in a way that's serving me instead of me serving it. And that, I think, is one of the phrases, is when the thing that you own owns you.
Yeah.
You become, what is it? Somebody once did an analysis of like the organic life essence, that almost mimetic power that alcohol has. And that if you look at it almost as this organism, it's one of the most dominant organisms to ever exist because of the way that it makes everybody serve it. It's this poison that makes people make more and become dependent, that it has almost looks like it has this consciousness in this mind where it is conquering us.
Yeah.
And I think to see that and understanding what is the function, is what you own owning you.
Yeah, I really like your point of they were at the precipice of killing each other for gold, for greed, right? And this goblin attack turns them. They become allies. They fight. I'm thinking of the line when it says when the elves go home, that they actually went home merry, and because they knew they had just rid the land of an evil and they would live with peace and merriment for years and years to come, versus how they would have gone home with or without the treasure had that been the only end of the battle. Right. And I always think about this whenever I'm reading these types of books and elves are dying. I'm like, they're like semi-eternal, like, you know, sacrifice. I'm dying in 80 years no matter what. So dying at 40 is like, but like for those guys, they're giving up a lot, and for them to go home joyous because that sacrifice had given thousands of years of peace and joy to other people.
Right,
it's kind of cool.
So the goblins come, right, and that unlucky thing turns out to be the luckiest thing because it gives them an actual enemy. It puts everything into perspective. This thing that they thought they were willing to kill each other over not only was not important, but didn't even get in the way of them becoming allies over the real problem.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that's so much of our political discourse these days is, look, we can disagree on certain things, but let's not make mountains out of molehills. You know, when
this is funny. I've had this conversation with a couple of people close to me. I think we see this happen a lot where something we choose something that because of maybe the negative impact it's had on our lives, as almost our sole purpose for existing is to try to attack and to tear something down. And my comment to them is, if you made a list of the top 10 most evil, terrible things happening right here in your backyard that you were going to dedicate your life to eradicating from the earth, does that make the list? Because if it doesn't, you probably should pick from the top 10. Right. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Goblins gave them perspective.
Yeah. And Bilbo doesn't even play that big of a role in the whole thing.
Gets hit with a...
He's invisible. He gets hit in the head.
Knocked out. That's awesome.
I do think that's instructive. You know, maybe when it really comes down to it, it's going to be some other guy that shoots down the dragon and other people that fight your battles, and all you were needed to do was your part, and you didn't even know what that part was.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of hope if you feel lost, if you feel like, well, your story. I mean, The Hobbit can be almost its own template for the hero's journey. The Joseph Campbell Hero with a Thousand Faces, the hero's journey that plays out through basically every good story. And it's often used to analyze other stories. I think you could use the template for that, like many people do with Star Wars. You could use The Hobbit as a template for that. It's so applicable. And just seeing Bilbo not know really what's going on, I think is probably the most relatable part as far as our own journeys.
Yeah. All right. Should we wrap up?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
So,
pause. Thank you for being in. Oh,
sorry.
Thank you for being in our book club. If you like the show, we're a show now. We didn't call it that before.
Did we not?
I don't remember. If you like the show, please leave a 5-star review. And if you'd like to contact us with comments, criticisms, we love the criticisms, or corrections, you can send us an email or voice memo at bookclub@mountaineer.media, MTNAIR.
Did we have another qualifier? I have comments, criticisms, and corrections. I feel like we had like 4 from before. I'll have to listen to that.
Don't remember.
Anyway, we promise we'll come back to the C.S. Lewis book club. I guess we are still the C.S. Lewis book club. We promise we'll come back to C.S. Lewis books.
Don't tempt me.
But in the meantime, check out our back catalog of episodes where we talk about your favorite C.S. Lewis fiction. Until next time.
Until then,
see ya.
I haven't looked at that one.
Yeah, that's a... Let's see. Well, let's see if I can turn off things.